Hey everybody, thanks for coming back. I have another comic review for you today. I'm going to be covering the third and fourth issues of Harbinger, which is on Valiant, and thank the fine folks at DMG for sending the review copies over to us. Now, I recently took over reviewing comics for So Is Your Podcast, so I did not read Harbinger 1 and 2. I wanted to catch up before getting into 3 and 4, especially after I read some of 3 and was a little bit lost. But I have so many of these reviews to do, I just honestly didn't have the time, so my apologies to the talented people behind Harbinger. I just wanted to get that little caveat before going forward, because one of the big things I like to talk about in a comic review, of course, is the story. The writing was all competent, it all seemed like it was there, but with missing the first 2 out of 4 in this 4-issue kind of mini run, tells a complete story. So coming to the series halfway through, I was a little bit lost. I'm not going to say that was a fault of the writers. I missed half the story, so take all of my story critiques with that grain of salt. We're in a city, we're dealing with big characters, and it's all assumed that we know who these people are. They must have laid a lot of groundwork in the first 2 issues. I generally like in a story where not everything is laid out and explained, and you just kind of step into a lived-in, built-up already world, and it's not just this, like, sanitize, here's a whole exposition dump. Now, maybe in the 3rd and 4th issues there should have been a little bit of catch-up, or maybe that's on me and I just should have went back and read the story. But it's pretty much a revenge story. There's this guy who gets powers, his city's kind of falling apart, and there's a few figureheads to blame, and he goes after him. Pretty typical, especially for a comic book story, especially for a superhero story. I didn't really get why the city was falling apart, or why the people were making it fall apart, or why this character felt like he had to make amends. That all could have been covered in the first few issues, but I think maybe a little bit of a reminder in the 3rd and 4th issues, without, again, that exposition dump, but just as to why he cares, or not rehashing old things, but why this action is settling that score for him, or this other action is completing this part of the character arc. I wasn't really sure what Harbinger's powers exactly were. It kind of just seemed like superhero. What I mean by that is he could kind of do whatever the scene needed him to do. And again, that could be me missing the 1st and 2nd, but I prefer my superhero stuff a little bit more grounded, like Spider-Man. You know his powers, you know where he is. I like when he's in Queens. Yes, the Marvel Cinematic Universe took him into space and all that, and when you go along with 20 movies to get there, fine, but I like my stuff a little bit more grounded, which I know is a silly statement talking about superheroes and comic books, but just my own 2 cents. So Harbinger as a hero might not have been my favorite, even though I loved the revenge and making his city a better place aspect of the story. I thought that was spot on, so I'm a little 50-50. Again, issues 3 and 4 as individual issues. No complaints. Yes, I was missing the beginning of the story, but these did have their own individual arcs. You could follow the story from beginning to end in both issues 3 and 4, and something across 3 and 4 together. So it did what's supposed to do in episodic storytelling. It told the episode, and it told the larger story. I was all in on that. The art and the layouts I loved. I get weirdly particular with superhero art, and especially in some of these indie comics. Not like I'm being an art snob, but it either clicks with me or it doesn't, and I try to give it some patience, but I make those snap judgments kind of early on in my reading. And it doesn't mean I'm going to abandon a book because I can love a story and not really love the art, like Scott Pilgrim. This is what I want to see in a superhero story. It felt alive. It felt like it had an energy to it. The colors were great. It mixed with the background's great. And the way the negative space was used, but also the way that things burst through the panels. The book just felt larger than the page, or in my case, the screen. I read these both on a Kindle Fire, and then I switched over to my laptop to be able to blow things up a little bit. I loved it as a PDF. This probably looks phenomenal in print, and as a comic fan, I always stress buying print over digital if you can, even though I do fully understand the convenience of digital, so that's better than nothing. To give credit where credit's due, as I said, Harbinger is put out by Valiant. All 4 issues are available now, so it's not a huge commitment to go into an arc. Each issue is only like $4, and these are 30-plus page issues. They're not quick reads. You're not through one of these in 5 minutes, which I thought was awesome, because it's kind of disappointing if you try a title from one of the big 2 at this point where, you know, you spend $5 to $7 on it and you read it in 5 to 7 minutes. Harbinger is going to give you a good value for your dollar. The story, I assume, is all there from what I enjoyed from issues 3 and 4, and that was even with me missing the first half. Loved how they did the lettering. It looked hand-done. They did this cool thing with the boxes where this is internal voice, this is external, this is this character talking, this is that one. It was never confusing despite having a lot of boxes on some panels. Not too many, but sometimes you can kind of get lost in the shuffle. Not the case here. They really made it clear who was doing what, and the bubbles became part of the art and part of the page rather than something added on to it. Harbinger was written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, who both have a lot of comic credits in their own rights independently. Art was by Robbie Rodriguez, colors by Rico Renzi, letters by Hassan Atsame El Hau. Apologize on the pronunciation. Cover art, Robbie Rodriguez. Alternative cover, Claudia Iancelio. Again, apologize for pronunciation. And they did a pre-order connecting cover, which I thought was a cool way to drag people in, or not drag people, that sounds like they were against their will, but to bring people in, Damian Scott. Harbinger, available now. Get it in print if you can. Get it digital if you can't. Check it out. Please remember to like and subscribe. I got a lot more of these comic reviews coming your way, along with interviews, new movie coverage, TV coverage, unboxings, tons of stuff, working on stuff every day. You're not going to want to miss out. Also, make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, videos, merchandise, and more. We love hearing feedback, so drop something in the comments, leave us something on social media. All of our accounts will be found after the show and in the show notes. And So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. And on a more personal note, a good friend and I have an ongoing comedy comic series out, speaking of comics. It's called Social Studies. It's a slice-of-life comedy comic. We don't do it all in the style of the 90s cartoons that we grew up in and inspired us. We take inspiration on the art style, the colors, the angles, just everything. We try to make it look like it's something straight out of the 90s. And we try to make it a lot of fun. We capture the high school experience. 8 issues available now. 9 is coming any day. You can find us at socialstudiescomic.com or on Comixology. Thanks.